The president was categorical. He said bilateral agreement. So if the foreign minister now says it's an MOU, an MOU is an intention. If the actual process is to take place, it has to be documented. An MOU is to say that I want to do this with you. These are the terms. Let's agree. But if the actual work is to take place, you need to put that in documentation. And in diplomatic relations, we know obviously that this will not happen based on an MOU. And all the countries that the U.S. is dealing with, they are not sending the people there based on an MOU. They are sending the people to those countries based on specific bilateral agreements. And it differs. So for the foreign minister to say an MOU has resulted in Ghana receiving deportees, I find it difficult to understand that, because obviously that will not be the end. It's the beginning of the process. So if the US and Ghana have an MOU to say, we want to deport people through Ghana, this is the memorandum of understanding, and we initial it. Before the deportation will actually take place, there has to be a sign of agreement that the MOU that we have signed, we actually agree, and there will be a bilateral agreement, because there will be a lot of issues that will be addressed in the actual bilateral agreement that will lead to those deportations. And therefore, I think that the two contradictory positions will not help matters.
As the position of the president and that of the minister.
Of course, because the president was categorical that Ghana has entered into a bilateral agreement with the U.S. The president did not say that it's an MOU. It says a bilateral agreement. So if the foreign minister now says it's an MOU, who should we believe? And you see, this kind of discrepancies will now make people call that, then publish or make it public. And these are diplomatic issues. I know it's so difficult for governments to publish diplomatic cables, agreements, and others, because in them are so many things that the public is not supposed to know. It's not only Ghana, everywhere in the world, diplomatic agreements and things are kept under wraps, because if you go to the final details, there will be a lot of things that are there that our government have considered that to make people angry. And if you read the WikiLeaks cables and you read Edward Snowden cables, you realize why diplomatic agreements are kept secret.
True.
Because then it revealed a lot of things that governments were doing under wraps that their people never knew. And obviously, if you read and realize the things that were happening, you will know that if the government had put this before their public, that is what they want to do, fierce resistance would have emerged. So it's important that when you know very well that this is a diplomatic thing and you are not going to actually make it public, you don't actually engage in contradictions, because then it raises a lot of questions about it. So I think that these two positions are not helping matters. The issue of the minority, they may have issues with this, and I believe that in the Guantanamo Bay case, the court made pronouncements. However, I know that the minority just left government. If we are to say everything that the government and that the current minority did, that the people of Ghana did not know, things that should require even parliamentary approval, but they will use diplomatic means to do, that were not public. I believe that if all those things have to be put out, they may, the areas that they themselves will be found wanting. And that is what I think that some of these things we need to look at it critically. I say we are a nation where all these things are happening because as a country, we are not strong enough. We are not powerful. And our people will always go to the US to seek for greener pastures. So when at certain points, a country like the US is putting pressure on you to help them in certain ways, you have no option than to bow, because the power they wield around the world and over your own country and over your own people is sometimes something no government can actually succeed in pushing back the US. If you look at it critically, just this year, we started with this issue of deportation. What happened? Visa duration restrictions and entry limits were imposed on Ghana.
Yeah.
Visa restrictions are one of the most potent tools of the American government.
Yeah.
Why? America is seen as the land of the free, greener pastures. So almost around the world, everybody wants to go there. And Ghanaians wants to go to the US more than anything. So if they impose such limits, what they succeed in doing is to make sure your people are angry with you, the government.
Exactly.
And how will you be able to rule when your people are angry with you? Because you will not, the other person will not get to know what is happening underground. So they will just say, okay, that the government is not doing something right. That's why the US government is imposing visa restrictions. The public will be angry with the government. And once that happens, every government will be thinking about, what do I do about it?
Yeah.
Then, on top of that, the tariffs issue. Until the tariffs were introduced, most products from Ghana go to the US under AGWA, which is duty-free. This year, the current president says he does not think that that is fair trade. And that if goods from America comes to Ghana and they attract import duties and taxes, then goods from Ghana must also. This policy took effect, I think, in July. And now, instead of free duty-free goods to the US, Ghanaians now have to pay as much as 15% duty on tariffs on everything they send them. Clearly, this is not something that Ghanaians want to do.
That technically ends the AGWA.
It technically ends AGWA. AGWA is ended.
Yeah.
So now you realize that sending your goods to America has become more expensive.
Yeah.
So that is also another pressure point on the government. Then, just last month, we were told that the Millennium Challenge Corporation has blacklisted Ghana. In fact, not Millennium, the American government has actually blacklisted Ghana from receiving any form of financial support in 2025. Any form of financial support in 2025, Ghana has been blacklisted. And for that reason, Ghana has been removed from countries that are eligible to benefit from Millennium Challenge Corporation. This is another pressure point for government. A poor country struggling to survive, who needs grants, loans, and other things. And America, as one of your key allies, now says that for the entire year, you are not getting a cent from the American government because a law has been invoked. All this that are happening is not Trump that has passed any new law. All these laws have been in the books of America for decades. It's only a government that's coming into force and says they want to enforce what already exists.
Yeah.
And has brought us. So if you look at the pressure on government, visa restriction, government's neck is being pressed.
Yeah. Tariffs.
Tariffs, government neck is being pressed. Now, we say we are, in terms of loans, grants, and everything, government neck is being pressed. In fact, government actually cannot brief in terms of Ghana-US relations. So, if there is something Ghana has to do in order to be able to have a little briefing space, government of the day will have no choice but than to do it. And I believe strongly that these pressures are too much for government. So government needs to actually accede to the request to deport these people so that maybe the US government will reconsider some of these decisions. In fact, for visa restriction, some countries now, if you apply for US visa, including Malawi, you have to pay a bond of $15,000 for application. And if we had not given in to these deportations, probably that might have been applied to us as well. Because the US government wants to get rid of people from the US who, for various reasons, they believe have infringed their immigration laws. Some are serious crimes, some are not serious crimes, but they want the people to go back to whichever country they came from. And they need cooperation of various countries around the world in order to be able to send these people away. And because of that policy, they are having serious negotiation. But it's like a lot of countries were pushing back. So then they have no choice but to use the tools available to them.
Yeah.
To also pressure those countries to get. So for me, I think the minority call is normal for them to ask for these things. But if we look at these 3 pressure points I actually mentioned, that Ghana government is under all these pressures, and the minority should remember that some of these pressures are also a result of our own people traveling to the US and refusing to return.
Yes, the overstays.
Overstays. And they mention specifically students who take visa that they are going to study, and after study they stay there to work and don't return. That is not the making of any particular government. It is individual Ghanaians who think that America offers a better opportunity than our country, and therefore they will not come. So the government, to be frank with you, has been under serious pressure since the assumption in office. You know, this government came to office with the US government at the same time. And the very moment you entered into office, the US says, we are enforcing all these rules. And then you, as a country like Ghana, you are the receiving end of all these pressures. And if you don't act, you don't know what they will do tomorrow. So for me, I think that we should just look at it from the point of view that at this point, the pressure that the US government has piled on us by enforcing various laws in their books, if we don't budge and do not allow them to send these people, the next steps may really, maybe government will just die out of breathing. So I think that we should look at it from a holistic national point of view rather than looking at it from a government point of view. The loans that they said will not get a PESWA, it is because of the debt restructuring that the previous government did.
Right.
And they say as a result of the debt restructuring, we were unable to service our debt to the US government. And per US law, any country that fails to service its debt, Congress has power to decide that that country should not receive any financial support from
the US.
The US. And that is the law that has been invoked.
Right.
So, for instance, that is not the doing of, excuse me, this current government. That is something that was done by the previous government, and this government has to take the bullet for it. That the whole year, US, which is one of the biggest supporters of our government, the whole of 2025, Ghana will not get a cent from the US because of debt restructuring. So, the government is under a lot of pressure. And whether we like it or not, the government needs to do something. And so I think that we bow to pressure because the US decided that they are enforcing all these laws because they think that at this point that these are the things that are in the interest of their country. It's affecting everybody. But as a country like Ghana, we feel that the pain is so hard and that the government has to do something. And if the government has not done something, and now they are coming and say if you apply for US, then I pay $15,000. Can you imagine what Ghanaians will be saying about the government? What has the government done now that if you apply for US visa, you have to pay $15,000 as a bond for you after they have limited your duration to 3 months and your entry to single. Now they will ask you to pay. Look, the people have a plan to make sure that the pressure is so high that we bow. And I think that we shouldn't be too political about this thing. We should rather look at it as how do we build our country in a way, a manner that our people will no longer be the ones that are running to other countries for those countries to now be putting all kind of pressure. I think that should be the conversation around some of these issues.
Very well.